another episode of the Tried and True podcast where I like to keep it a buck in all pennies with y'all and my guests. We got a real good one today, man. This is a super producer, engineer, helping me work on yet another one of my projects, probably my best work ever. He's worked with artists who I haven't gotten to work with that I greatly admire, and the man's work is just impeccable. His perspectives are on point, and another person who has not only read the book, The Deciding Factor. If you haven't gotten it, go get it. But he lives and exemplifies these principles and the moral codes that I talk about in the book. I mean, he just does it effortlessly. It's part of his being. I'm going to introduce him in a minute, but I got a segment I want to jump into. I had some of the viewers and listeners and supporters of me and everything I got going on online. They've been submitting questions. So, and I know y'all are out there watching this, so I'm going to answer these questions. I'm going to shout y'all out too. So hopefully you don't have anything too ridiculous on your Instagram, because that's what I'm about to tell the people to go follow. First, we got at DIIIS4MTHN. This is the homie. He asked, how did you come up with your book? I kind of just needed to fill a need, man. Like I was asking myself the important questions, you know, the stuff the book is about. I was asking myself, what is the difference between me and where I want to be? What is the difference between me and my environment? How do I know what to change, what to keep the same? I need to bridge the gap between me now and the future me, you know, the me that I can be proud of. I needed to bridge that gap. I asked a bunch of those important questions, and a book was born. I'll get into more of that actual process another time. I actually have a writer's program that's coming out, but that's how I was born. So to answer that, another person at _Jordan Gabriel with a V and not a B. Does your mind wander when being creative? That, sir, is a phenomenal question. I send it off. It doesn't necessarily wander, it explores. I send my mind to a place where it can just go where it needs to go. It's like the equivalent of, you know, taking your dog to the dog park and just letting it go. I need my mind to go places that I don't really have the freedom for it to go when I'm in business mode. So I go to the open pastures of my thought process. I remove any limitations. You know, you got limitations from society and yourself and things like that. And I just let it wander on purpose. I need it to go to new places because that spirit of excellence wants you to create at a higher level than normal. So you send it off to go to those places where you'll be able to break those thresholds, man. So the answer is yes, and you want to do it in a healthy way. It's not distracting, but in order to come up with something new, you got to go places maybe you haven't been mentally. So, Chico McGee, this is the homie too. He'll be on the podcast at some point, but follow at Chico McGee. What inspired you to write a book and take the road less traveled? And first of all, you know the vibes. You actually know the answer to this question. But secondly, this is just how I am, man. It's how I was born. Like when I came into the world, there were a lot of paths that were traveled by most that I wasn't allowed to go down. So I'm accustomed to taking the path less traveled. I needed to write it out because I couldn't talk it out, and my thoughts were a little bit scrambled. I was going through a lot at the time. I wrote it all down, and instead of me hoarding it for myself as notes, make a book. So I made the book. I released the book. Go get it. Yes, you can get it on Amazon, but there's a discounted price if you get it directly from me. Cut the middleman. Tribalhaven.me. That's tribalhaven.me. Go grab the book, everybody. And those are the questions. So now that we got that out of the way, we got Chris Jones, otherwise known as Wicjones. Who is Wicjones? So guest, go on and introduce yourself. I kind of gave you a cool little intro, but tell the people what you do, who you are, and first of all, thank you for being here. Yeah. Your time is extremely valuable to yourself, but also me. So I'm honored to have someone of your caliber and you in particular on the pod. So yeah.
What's going on, y'all? Yeah, my name is Chris Jones, aka Wicjones. I'm a producer and engineer based out of Denver. Traveled a bit, you know, just kind of studying under different engineers to learn more stuff from, just trying to find different ways to push the envelope and, bring value to the people that want to work with me.
Yep, solid. That's the very humble breakdown of what you really do, but I'll take it. You got to wear the humble hat. I don't got to wear it for you. So I can say all the great things I want to say about you. Tell them what studios are you working with or working out of right now?
Right now, I'm working out of Bright Future Media, a studio.
Shout out to them.
Yeah,
that's
shout out to
the
Bright
BFM
Future
family.
Yeah, so working very closely with them, that's home for me. So.
Yeah, it's very homey space too. That's interesting you pointed that out. But yeah, working out of BFM. So anybody in the area, or even not in the area, we get a lot of people from out of the area too. People fly out, drive out, whatever.
Stuff mixed.
Bright Future Media, Studio One. That's in Colorado. That's in Aurora, Colorado, kind of on the border between Aurora and Denver. Check it out, Bright Future Media on social media. But yeah, once again, thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
I'm just very glad. The same thing I told Leno. I'm glad that there are people like you who are taking time to even read something I wrote. As I told him, it's for people who are about application.
Absolutely.
Lazy people will hate it. If you're out there and you're lazy and you don't want to change, you're going to hate it. I don't recommend anyone read the book who doesn't plan to make change because it'll provoke you to. And this is a change agent. You know, you're one of the change agents that I turn to when I need to be inspired to get the hell up. And when it's time for me to get out of bed and it was time for me to swing that hammer again, you're someone I look and I say, man, Wick's still going. So I need to get up.
I'm trying to for sure. Yeah. So,
Chapter 2.
Yeah. The book, to me, it's so crazy reading it because it's like a lot of my own thoughts that it's like I never really put into words. And it's like, so it's so dope to see someone who I also call a friend just embodying all those same values and all that. It's amazing to really read and be like, yo, like,
that's what's I feel like Leno said something to that effect too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is good because y'all two people
yeah.
I'm like,
he's the same way. It's like both of y'all, man. I really admire and look up to y'all just as people. And, you know, it's dope to have people around you that you feel like can help you grow.
Iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, man, that's phenomenal. I think this was like a perfect chapter for you and I to kind of dissect. We talked about it before and all that, but it just seems so perfect. It's titled "The Difference Between You and Others." By the way, for all the people who have yet to read it, once again, go get it. But the difference between you and others, and I think I wanted to discuss this chapter kind of with you, or the content in it, not even really the chapter, to be honest, but like some of the stuff that's in it, because it's kind of like. We are two people who not only took a road less traveled, but we've shed a lot of skin, whether it be habits or people or just whatever, shedding ourselves to get to where we are. And we are people who keep doing it to get to where we're going. And I see you do it all the time. Like, you are so willing to make changes.
Gotta be, man. You can't.
At the drop of a dime. Like,
you can't really get too caught up on what you think things should be. You just got to take things in stride and keep it pushing. You know, what can you learn from the situation? How can you do better moving forward?
Yeah, facts.
Keep it pushing.
What can you learn from the situation? That's an important point. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was when and how were you able to tell not only that you were different from, I should say, your environment, because I think a lot of times we'll get in an environment that's it's not conducive of that fire we have. It'll be very moist environment. That's just kind of like, it's hard to ignite things in this environment, you know? It's like trying to spark a log in a lake. That's tough. If it's possible at all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like spontaneous combustion could happen, but what are the odds? You know,
seriously.
It's a lot out of our control. But not only the environment, but the people. Because if you are fired trying to spark wood and the wood is wet.
Yeah.
They say you're not the wood. Let's say that the wood is wet and it's the people around you, and you don't necessarily have to cultivate a team outside of people who are around you, but you got to have designated friendships. Where it's like, some of these people I can work with on my dreams and aspirations, but some of these people, I know that's my go to the movies friend. Yeah, and that's my video game friend. And that's my go out to eat friend.
To know.
But none of those friends are my we got work to do friends.
Right.
You know? So I'm interested in how and when were you able to tell, like, you know what? I need to make changes to my environment and maybe some of these relationships so that I can get ahead.
You know what's funny is, for me, I don't think it ever happened exactly in that way. For me, it was more so like I was always just making changes. And, you know, growing up in like elementary school, middle school, we changed schools like a couple times until we got to high school, and we stayed in one spot until, you know, that was the only high school I went to. That was the first time that ever happened. But right after that, I moved to a different state for a few years, and, you know, was in
where'd you move?
Dayton, Ohio, actually.
Did I know that already?
I don't know. I lived there for like 3 years. So
I didn't mean to cut you off, but
yeah, you good.
It feels like new information, but it feels familiar in a weird way.
Yeah, but that's how my life was. It's just like a lot of change all the time, and I kind of just got used to it and realized, like, I think at one point in time I just looked up and was like, yo, like, things have really been moving for me, and it's really centered around the fact that I'm not going to say no just because it's different. I'm not going to say no just because I'm uncertain.
You were already accustomed to change because of like the way you grew up.
Kind of, yeah. And I never, what's funny is I just never acknowledged that until probably recently, where it's like, I think that's why I would consider myself to be somewhat of successful in life, is because I've just been able to say, oh, that's where the opportunity is. That's where I have to go.
So that's where I'll go.
Yeah, right. That's where I'll go. I'll be there.
That's interesting. I think we share that mindset. That's interesting. I've had to confront that recently by myself too. We got real similar upbringing. Like before we were old enough to to decide what changes and what doesn't change, we were just thrusted into change. It was kind of like your parents and you're moving around and you're going different schools. Like we ain't got no say in that. You know what I'm saying?
We had no say at all.
That's the same for me. Like always moving around. Like I was born, when I turned 1, we moved. Yeah. And then we moved again. And then I came here, but every year I'm back and forth between here and California. Yeah. So it's like, and so all those different schools where I was there. So it's like similar. And then when I got in high school, even when I moved here, 3 middle schools, but high school, I went to the same high school. So it was like the first time I did that. So like, okay, all right, me and Wick related in that way. So it's kind of like by the time it came time where I can choose if things all stay the same or all change, I'm so used to it like you.
Right. It's like I'm going to go wherever's more beneficial.
Yeah, exactly. I would go, like, if the opportunity makes sense, I'm okay with picking up and going. I had to confront that recently, too, because me and my girlfriend, we're going to be moving in a couple of months. And you start to progress through life, and then you get, like, a girlfriend or something, or you get married, or you have a kid, and then you have to think of... okay, there's like the stability thing, like root a family somewhere. They're gonna have to go to school, and it's like, okay, so do I stay here? For how long? And so I'm having to confront a lot of that stuff again, and I'm realizing I don't usually think about it.
Right. Yeah. and that's the crazy part about getting older. It's like, I gotta actually worry about this stuff.
I gotta think about things I ain't never had to think about. Like I don't even having to think about what's for dinner. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
in the now. Fatigue. Like let's do this now, and we'll worry about that when we get there.
That's interesting you even say that. That's good. That's good. So I had another question for you. You kind of were segueing into some stuff, and I don't want to harp on it for too long, but I'm interested in do you have 2 things before I get into the meat of it? Do you have a lot of your childhood friends around these days? Like
I wouldn't say so for real. Like, social media keeps everybody at arm's length at all times, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Yep. But, I know a lot of people who I've grown up with at some point in time in my life that I am still connected with, but I don't talk to them on the regular. I think there's probably like one friend. There's probably like, I'd say 1 to 3 friends that I talk to, one for sure regularly from high school, and then others, every few months or so. But it's like I don't really talk with anybody that avidly. No.
I'm kind of similar. Like, there's a lot of relationships that kind of distance themselves. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like I think it was Snoop talking to A$AP Rocky when he was like, it's not necessarily that you're trying to cut people off, but you got to keep growing. And when they don't grow, but you do grow, there becomes a gap. And then if you're a good friend, you want to limit that gap, or you want to minimize it or shorten it. But that's either going to require you to come down or for them to come up. Yep. And if they're not going to come up, coming down can't be an option. So you have to grow apart for the good of it, for the greater good. Absolutely. Like you have to. And it's interesting because and I only ask that because I'm similar, and where I'm going with that is something that I really struggle with too, like myself, is sometimes I think like, dang, am I a bad person because I am not so connected to them, or like they need things, and like I can't really be their savior, but it's like I guess I could be around more. Yeah. But then it's like, how much will that hurt me? You know what I'm saying? If I have to keep, and I don't want to say down, but I will say backward. It's like forward movement. Forward and upward movement has to happen, because we're all gonna look up, and we only had one life. And if we spend it trying to please everybody around us all the time, like at some point you need to be uncomfortable so that you'll move. But if I'm trying to make you comfortable, that's like a bad type of uncomfortable, because then I'm uncomfortable because I'm stagnant, and you're comfortable because I'm stagnant. Right. And that's just not a healthy relationship. And then I hate you in 5 years go by and I hate you. And I'm like,
I had to slow down for you. And
exactly. And then I really cut you off. I just think that's interesting. That's something I struggle with. It's an interesting thing. All right. And I wanted to go there before I go here. So I've been trying to figure out, how do I know when something needs to change and when something needs to stay the same? Like you got to divorce good to get to great, obviously. Absolutely. But some things are working for what you're trying to do. And you get in the habit of changing everything because we do that naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes you end up changing something that should have stayed the same. You got to kind of hit your head a few times to learn.
Absolutely.
How do you know when to make the change or distance yourself from the person or to keep it the same?
I don't know. It's weird. I just thinking about like my life and all the different things that have happened in it. I don't feel like I've ever. There's usually like a fallout with what happens with the distance, and
You mean like naturally?
To some extent, yeah. If a disagreement was too powerful or whatever the case may be, it's like if we just don't see eye to eye, then it's like there's not much.
It just happens itself.
Yeah, there's not much to talk about at that point. It's just like, sometimes you can work through it, but other times it's just like, are we heading in the same direction? And if we're not, then I'm going to continue to do my thing. And, you're more than welcome to tag along with me and do whatever it is you want to do within that. Mm. But I can't force people to work. I can't force people to want better things for themselves. I can't.
That's big. You can't force people to want better things for themselves.
And then let me preface that with this too. It's like, who am I to say what's better for somebody else?
Exactly.
So it's like I just worry about me at the end of the day.
I was just coaching somebody on that yesterday. Expectations. And I'm not getting on a soapbox, but the way I said it, I thought it was interesting the way it came out of my mouth. And I said that as people, we're either expecting people to change who they are to make the change we want, or we're expecting them to be us, but we're never expecting them to be them.
Right.
We don't ever expect people to just be themselves.
Right.
I said it a little different, actually. I just remembered. I said we either expect them to be superhuman or to be us, but never to be them.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was fascinating.
It is, and it's such a fine balance too, because there's some things, especially like when you're dealing with like for example, like your life partner, your girlfriend, whoever.
And this is what we was talking about.
It's like it's so it's such a fine line, because it's like you got to find the balance in between what is and what you want your relationship to be. It's like, so it's a constant, like, is this what we want?
Where do I compromise?
Yeah, where do you compromise? And actually, too, what things make sense to compromise? Because sometimes some things make sense or we think it makes sense when it really doesn't. So my biggest thing is just not normalizing things that we know for sure aren't normal, but are quote unquote normalized by the media. It's like
society.
Yeah, it really, that's really what it is, society.
Let's not normalize it here, though.
Right. Let's not, because we know in reality that shit, it's just not, it's not.
It don't make no sense.
Yeah.
Honestly, like if people would stop and just think for a moment and not allow the media to think for them, they'd realize like a lot of that doesn't actually make sense.
Exactly.
Like it may feel good and normal, like you can go with the flow of traffic
and it may feel safe and all that, but it's like let's just call a spade and say
call a spade, bro.
When something isn't right. So I don't know, for me with relationships, like, and not even just boyfriend, girlfriend, those type of relationships, like any relationship that you have in your life, it's all about really acknowledging what you want and what that person wants. And if you guys can't come to agreement on what, if those wants align still, then it's like, you don't got to like go your separate ways or nothing like that. But at the end of the day, it's like,
it's kind of like, you're not a bad person.
Right. No,
we're just not going in the same direction.
Absolutely. And that can happen with family, friends. Doesn't matter.
And it's going to keep happening, especially if you're not someone who's just willy-nilly or wandering around and just willing to go every direction. It's going to always happen because like me and you are headed in a very specific direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are a lot of people who are great people, but they're literally just going somewhere else. And I'm not going with them there. And I'd be a bad friend if I told them, no, you need to come with me here, because that's not what you want for your life.
Right.
So I'm not going to tell you to do that.
Right.
So I'm going to say, it's no big deal. The distance is fine, and it should be fine. And hopefully you're fine with it too, because I want you to be great. And if you need anything, call me.
Right.
But we just not on the same stuff. I'm not better or worse than you, vice versa.
Right.
That's huge, man.
Pass.
That's a big thing about, and I struggle with the title for this chapter too, because the difference between you and others naturally has sort of a prideful connotation to it. But it's super humble. Like it's important to view those differences without some predisposition that what makes you different makes you better than them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not better than anyone.
No.
You're not better or worse
Yeah.
than anyone because of what makes you different.
Right.
And I think I talked a lot about that in the chapter. Like, your differences don't make you worse either. Like, what you, some things, there are pros and there are cons depending on where you put your personality, but your personality type is not a con or a pro. You can make it a pro because it'll work for you.
Right.
But it ain't better than your personality type.
Absolutely.
And it ain't so bad. Like, why am I like this? For a specific reason.
Right. And that's through your upbringing and all that.
There's a reason you're like that.
Absolutely.
And there's a way you can use you for the good of all, especially you.
Yep.
And I don't know. That's big.
That's
big
facts,
stuff. Man. You about to get me on my soapbox. That kind of leads me into something else I wanted to ask you too. Not necessarily how do you identify, because I kind of asked you, like, how do you know what to change and what to keep the same? And you really described it. It's about, like, what direction are we going? And does it make sense? That's really simple. And I think people should keep it simple. You complicate it and you start arguing and all that.
Absolutely.
But the other one to that is, like, when it comes time to do that, how were you actually able to make said sacrifices? It could be small stuff like an eating habit, something dietary, or it could be something big like, I can't be this person's shoulder to cry on. Or it could be a whole career change that you're making, like, dang, I thought I needed to do this, and I'm realizing that it doesn't really go along with who I am.
Yeah.
How are you able to actually execute on that at a high level? Because it's got to be tough.
I think for me, I've always said that I'm the type of person that I'm not afraid to be the bad guy if it's doing the right thing.
I know that about you.
And that's where it's like, I think it just boils down to that. It's like, I feel like logically based. Like, when I think, it's like, I don't really care about the would've, could've, should've's. I care about what is, and again, what paths we're trying to go down, etc.
We're similar in that way.
So it's like, if even if it's a hard thing to do, it's worth doing, because at the end of the day, if it's the wrong thing to do to continue doing what we're doing in whatever fashion, then we're only hurting each other. We're hurting our relationship and we don't even know it. And, I think it's just being able to do the hard things despite, what that means.
Despite the feeling
Yeah.
of it all. And I think that's a big deal too. And I know that to be true about you because I've watched you make the tough decisions, make the changes, and you've been someone in the room. Like, when I'm kind of just sitting back doing my observer thing, just watching what everybody's saying and seeing where we come to, you've been one of the people who, when we call on your opinion, or when I see somebody call on, like, your input, you are the guy who's like, well, 2 + 2 = 4. So it don't matter if you feel like it should be 5. It don't matter if you really want it to be 8.
Right.
It's 4.
That is
And
what
we
it
can
is.
get to 5 and we can get to 8. But we need to acknowledge the 4, because to get to 5, you can add 1 to 4. And to get to 8, you can multiply the 4 by 2. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
you're the
that's
dude
facts.
who's like, the math ain't mathing, or the math is mathing.
Yeah.
So you can feel how you want.
Absolutely.
Even if it pisses you off. And you've been that guy. And I think that's what draws me towards you creatively. I can work with you. And we'll get in the studio. And I mean, yesterday, like, I'll sit there and I'll be like, I want to say my ideas, but I also don't want to say too much, because you are like a creative genius in that way. And you're not going to steer me wrong.
For sure. And I appreciate that, man. Even, as a producer, that means the world to a producer, being able to let them lead. And then also, I feel like I try to do my part as well, where I try to dig in and say, like, oh, well, what do you want to feel? What do you, how you want to attack this, et cetera.
Yeah,
so it's such a, it's a
put
give
up
and take.
You put up with all my dumb descriptions.
Man, it happens. It happens in the audio world. People got to describe it how they feel it, and we got to be able to decipher it.
Yo, I got to tell y'all this. So, people, y'all keep seeing me look off camera and all that. My girlfriend's sitting right here, and then you got Eric, the phenomenal mad scientist over there, who's making it all happen. But I got to tell y'all this. So yesterday we were in the studio, and he's like, all right, what do you want it to sound like? Let's get a good bass. What direction do you want to go for? And immediately, and I knew I was going to sound stupid, but this is why I like Wick. Because I was like, well, just picture, so I didn't even describe a sound. I'm like, or a color. I'm just, all right, well, just picture, you in the old school black juke joint, and you got the real skinny black people with the suits, and they got the cigarette on the long French stick, and the smoke in the air, and just no one cares about nothing. And then he was like, I got it. That was so funny to me because I'm like, man, he puts up with all my ridiculous descriptions. But your ability to pay attention to what matters, I think, makes you able to do that. Like, you're not going to tell me I'm wrong for the way that I saw the sound. Right. You're just going to say, well, how can I translate that to myself to create the sound for this person who has the ridiculous description?
Right.
Because it ain't wrong, even though it's unconventional.
Right.
Like, some people will be like, well, I want it to sound like Migos. It's like, I don't necessarily want it to sound like Migos, but Migos makes me feel like this.
Right.
And then I'll say what I saw when the Migos song came out or something.
Absolutely.
I just think that's phenomenal. I think that's part of your I think that's part of your uniqueness is you're willing to accept what people brought you if it's authentic, and you will make it fit you to make the relationship work as long as it's not harmful to you.
Absolutely. You know, it's all growing. That. It's all a growing experience. And, you know, I just want to, at the end of the day, I just want to grow. I want to grow in the people around me that I really genuinely rock with. I want to see them flourish in whatever they want to do. So it's like, I'm just here to work.
Facts. And that's, you know what? As you start to, and I might have said this in the chapter, for everyone who's watching, they're like, does he know what the chapter was about? I know, but it's just not scripted. It's conversational. So in the chapter, the difference between you and others, I hope that I highlighted that as you discover those differences, like we were talking about earlier, in you realizing that you're not better or worse than anyone, you're just different. Also, it's important to cultivate the soil in our mind that grows the thought, I also want you to be the best you, whether that's with or without me. Absolutely. Or if that means you need to make some changes, if I'm a close friend or you asked me, I'm going to tell you some suggestions. And if I know that what you're doing is working for you, I will specifically advise you, don't be like me. Don't do what I'm doing. What you're doing is working for you. And it ain't like me at all. We're doing different things and we're different people, but that's who you are. And I want you to be more of who you are so you can be better. I don't know. That's just something that I've seen with you. Like, that's why I like creating with you, though, because I'll get in there and you literally have your preferences for what you would like, but you don't let that get in the way of you helping me create my best work.
Absolutely.
That's facts. That's
what it's about, man. That in life and music, all that, you know, it's just about staying true to you while being able to give other people what they need. Because at the end of the day, people need to get what they need out of every situation.
People need to get what they need out of every situation.
Yeah, it's like, I guess I say that because it's like, you know, you can't basically take someone who wants to do something and, you know, you have a different path for them. You can't really decide their path. You have to figure out a way to help them walk their path. You can't say, oh, well, no, I have a different path for you. You got to let people.
You got to help them walk their path.
You got to help them walk their path. You know, for me, that comes in the sense of, you know, we have Joe who wants to learn audio engineering, and then we have me who wants him to become a producer. It's like I can't say, hey, no, you should come up and become a producer, and but it's like, oh no, I came to you because I wanted to learn how to audio engineer. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna teach you how to produce instead.
Ooh, that's so bad.
And then it's like you have someone who's trying to put in effort to keep the relationship going. It's
like a disease that's happening.
Exactly, but they're not getting what they need out of the situation because what they want and need is to learn audio engineering.
And you're not giving them what they need or what they want by giving them what you want for them.
Exactly. Ooh. You can't force somebody to want something that they don't want. So your best route is to figure out what they want and figure out how to help them get to it.
And hopefully they want what they need. And if they don't, then you got to start looking at some of that other stuff we talked about earlier.
That's part of life.
Some of that skin shedding.
Absolutely.
Atmosphere change and environment change. That's all facts. I want to take a second just to point something out. I know the people notice me take a very loud gulp of water. This is Vessel Spring Water. I advise everybody to go follow at Vessel Spring Water on Instagram. It's just a phenomenal company that's getting rid of the harms and dangers of using plastic, teaching people about consciousness, and they got a lot to say, and they got a lot to help people with. So extremely fairly priced in this fancy green glass bottle. They got clear ones too, but Vessel Spring Water, go on and follow them on Instagram and peep out for yourself. But I love Vessel Spring Water. All right, so I want to jump into it's kind of the last thing I wanted to bring up to you. I want to make sure I'm remaining educational, which we've done. I think that people are getting a lot out of this. I believe that if you're listening to this as entertainment, it can be entertaining. And I think if you're watching this for instructions, you're receiving instructions. But I think that let's take a moment to kind of blatantly tell someone is watching or listening who's trying to cope with change that's happening around them that they're not sure what to do with. And they're also trying to cope with the tough decisions. If no change is happening, they got a tough decision to make about change. What do you have to say to that person? Do you have like advice for best practices, maybe to prepare yourself or keep yourself ready to change? Or do you have advice for that person, like as you go through change, maybe A, B, or C, to keep your mind in a good place as it happens to you and around you? Like, what do you have to say to those people who maybe want change, but it's just tough emotionally? That's hard.
I would say, keep your goals in mind. Keep your goals in mind, where you want to go in life, and stay true to that. Don't let other people try to deter you from your path, and don't let yourself stop you from making moves just because you
don't get in your own way.
Don't get in your own way. If you get, like analysis paralysis, as people will call it, where you'll just think about the stuff that you need to do and not do anything because you
think about thinking about thinking.
Yeah, it's like
I was coaching on that yesterday too. Because
it's a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous thing. So my thing is just, stay true to your goals, and if it helps to write out your goals and tell yourself what you want and need every day, write them out and
write it out.
Vision board, whatever you need to do, but just figure out what you want in life, what direction you want to go, and go there, and don't be sorry. Like, you can't be sorry for following your dreams. Unapologetically, exactly. You got to follow your dreams.
The man, the myth, the legend, dropping bombs. Do we have a? I think last time I did was talking about dropping bombs, and I don't remember if we had one or not.
We got one.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie, that scared me a little bit.
You say what?
Bombs. All right, so you said something big. You talked about vision boards real quick, and I don't want to necessarily talk about it, but I'm interested if you have one still, because I think everyone's kind of made one before, and I don't know if I still have mine. I think I got like a digital one or something, because it's 2021. If you need to make a digital one, make a digital one. But do you have a vision board currently?
I wouldn't say a real vision board per se, but I have a couple different boards, like whether they be digital or ones that are in the studio. That I, just write important stuff into.
I was gonna say,
whether it be,
take notes.
Yeah, what I'm working on or what I want to focus on, or there's some things I just started writing on my board just so I can see it every time I pass it and be like,
same. I got one in my room. It's like a chalkboard.
Yeah,
yeah.
So it's extremely helpful just to help keep me hold myself accountable. Really, that's what I try to use it for.
And I won't go too deep down that path because that's another chapter in the book. But yes, holding yourself accountable and making it easy for you to do what's important.
Absolutely.
Like by writing it down or like put it in your face all the time.
Absolutely.
Something that you had said before, like unapologetically go where you know you need to go with what you have. And one of the things I have on my chalkboard is go with what you have.
Yep.
And that right there is what made me finish my book.
Hey, I feel
Go with what you have. That's the word that I received. I was meditating, trying to figure out what the heck to do next. I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I have everything. And the instruction I got back was go with what you have. And you walk and I'll build the bridge under you.
Absolutely.
That's huge. All right. I got a lightning round. So I got this segment that I'm introducing. It's a lightning round. I'm going to fire off some questions for my man Wick over here. Some of them don't matter at all, but we're just interested in getting to know our guest personalities and stuff like that. I know a lot about them, but some of this I actually don't know. So I'm going to shoot off like 6 questions. You give me the quick things that come to mind, like whatever.
All right, here we go.
Feel free to butcher it. Feel free to butcher it. All right, first, favorite movie?
Oof. I'm going to say The Dark Knight.
Ooh, why? I love that movie.
I've always loved the Batman. Batman has always been like one of my favorite characters, always. But then Joker, of course, he just took the whole story to a new level, and he's a crazy guy, but he makes some sense.
Did you see the Joker?
He's
the
a crazy
movie,
guy.
The Joker?
I did, yes.
Did you like it?
I did. It was a bit dark.
You said
it was a bit dark, and I don't mind dark, but it was just okay.
That had to be dark because how do you get a character like the Joker? We had to know,
right?
And that's how you get it.
Yeah, and I think I
feel for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where it's like I get where you're coming from. You just took it a little further than I was willing to.
Hey, I wouldn't have taken it that far, but I get it.
Right. It's like, well,
it's like this is what happened.
Right.
All right. Let me keep the lightning in the lightning round. Favorite book? Other than the deciding factor, go get the book. Tribalhaven.me.
Favorite book. I would say I want to give a few just because.
Go for it. They need content to read.
As a music producer and someone in the music business, All You Need to Know About Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald Passman. Great book. I'll just leave it at that. Great book.
Okay.
48 Laws of Power.
That's a big.
I love that book. I don't like what it can be used for. It's a tool.
It's a tool. You get any tool in the wrong hands.
And exactly. And that's kind of the stance that I had to take on it. It's like, it's not a bad book. It can be used for bad things, or, people can apply it in negative ways. But
Facts.
I think
that was my first issue with it.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this is like, good. It's like too good. It's like,
it's like, should we be telling everybody this?
Right. It's like, we're telling us to manipulate people, guys. It's like, but like I said.
But for someone who has the best interests of the people in mind, that's important.
Right. Applying it in ways, for good. So I'll say those two books for sure.
Okay. Favorite food?
Mac and cheese.
Ooh, you
love
didn't go bougie this time?
I love me some mac and cheese.
With the baked mac and cheese, with all the cheeses and the layers and the, okay, not that box mac. Now, ain't nothing wrong with the box mac.
That's what I'm saying.
Let me tell you
eat some Kraft.
I just found out Velveeta is not cheese recently, and it blew my mind.
It hurts me because I still want to eat it, though.
Oh, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah,
I got like 8 boxes of Velveeta mac.
It's too late. It's too late.
Eat my Velveeta. But let me tell you, in the grocery store, I realized it's on a shelf. It's not refrigerated.
Yep. As soon as I realized that, I was like, yeah, this isn't really cheese, but it's so good.
I was like, babe, you know Velveeta's not cheese? And she was like, well, yeah, it's not in the refrigerator. And I was like, oh, well, hey, the difference is between you and me. All right, favorite person right now.
Favorite person.
Just right now. Because, that changes.
For me, honestly, I would still say Nipsey. If that can count, just because everything he stood for and everything he was fighting for, I think that was one loss that it's like, I don't really ever typically feel celebrity losses just because it's like, it's not that close to me. I care, of course, but Nipsey, I was like, man, like, how can we take someone like that out so I'm going to say Nipsey.
I ain't going to go down that rabbit hole for myself because, we'll end up doing a whole nother podcast, but agreed.
Yeah.
Favorite quote?
Favorite quote.
That you can think of right now, I suppose. Oh!
I want to read it word for word because
whipped out the notes.
Each time,
ladies and gentlemen, we about to get a good one.
Yeah, we are about to get a good one, real good one.
He said, "Don't get it twisted. It's phenomenal."
Right here.
Okay.
Complaints without action are the bars used to cage our minds and keep us locked away from our true potential.
Now, who said that?
You did.
That's great.
In your book.
Didn't expect that.
That is, every time I see that, every time I read the book, and I see that, I just have to tweet that again because it's so true.
I needed to read that when you tweeted it because there's a lot going on, and we both know a lot of what's going on. And for some of us, we have separate things going on. And and she knows this about me. Like, I won't even talk about my problems to people that are happening because I don't want to feel like I'm complaining.
For sure.
And then I felt some of it coming out, and I was complaining to myself. And then you tweeted that, and I read it, and I was like, it's a cage. It's a cage. Express yourself in safe places.
Yep. And
remain solution-oriented, although you don't always have to have the answer.
So true.
But you don't want to complain. It's a difference, and it's thin between, you're like, you got people who need to vent, you need to complain. You got to do that in a safe way. But like, I'm not going to get on Facebook and just be like, I hate A, B, and C. It's like, there's no solution there.
Nope.
But I can talk to her and I can tell her the stuff that's going on in a day because she'll help me figure out how can I change to make myself more comfortable, keep myself operating. That was huge. I felt like you said it. Like, I know I wrote it, but I didn't write it like, anyone, you read the book, you can tell like it's my voice, but trust me, I'm not coming up with this stuff. Like this is like principle based, timeless, like divine ideas. Like you can't take credit for ideas because where was it before you?
For sure. That's facts.
It came out of nowhere.
But it's so true though. Still, like you can't complain and not try to make something happen of it. If you just want to complain, then say that. But if you want to figure it out and get past it and move on and grow, etc., you got to figure it out. You got to find a solution.
And yes, you have to address the problem first. So, express yourself in safe arenas and places that make sense. But that solution orientation is necessary. Man, I'm glad you said that. Not just to promote the book, but go get the book if you ain't got it. Tribalhaven.me. Get it straight from me. Cut the middleman. Or if you have trouble doing that, you can get it from Amazon. It's a little bit more expensive there because there is a middleman. So I did that on purpose because you have to, royalties and all this, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, get it straight from me. Peep the website. I got a blog, all that. But anyway, last question.
Yes, sir.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
It's a good one.
All right.
Favorite accomplishment?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like all my accomplishments are just going to be my new favorite accomplishment at that time. I love keeping it going. Like I will accomplish one thing and my next thought is like, all right, well, what's next? And sometimes I would say that can be a bad thing, but
that can be a really good thing too.
I just like to keep it moving, man. I love to keep it moving. I would say right now, my favorite accomplishment would be just learning more of myself as a producer and learning how I can help bring artists' vision to life.
New ways to add value.
New ways to add value, man.
That's facts. What's your favorite creative work?
BHM right now.
Oh, yeah.
BHM was a lot of fun.
Where can people get that?
You can search it anywhere. Just look for Wicjones on any major streaming platform. You'll find BHM. It was a project kind of centered around Black history, really, just trying to shed light on a lot of the artists, et cetera, that have come before us and really just, bring new life to them.
It's phenomenal, by the way. And that's a perfect segue. We about to wrap it up. I'm landing the plane. But where can everybody find Wicjones? What's up with that social media?
At WIC Jones. Yeah, follow me on everything, Twitter, Instagram. I'm everywhere.
Solid. He's everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. He's everywhere doing all the things. So, as I said, we're going to land the plane. Once again, it was a pleasure to have you. Obviously, this is powered by the Content Creation Studios. That's where we at with it. And sponsored by Tribal Haven, the one-stop shop consultancy. We got Bright Future Media, 2 of those team members in the building. Wicjones, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
He's been tried, and it's all true.
Much love, bro.
Love.